a position. College has already identified a person in IT that is supposed to be helping with AI.
Okay, nice. That's great.
Right? That was in the budget, and that budget was approved.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Don't know who it is yet, but to start off, I'm going to give a quick poll real quick. I'm going to pop this up. This is a do you use AI poll. Just a quick poll for the people who are here. Well, we got 9 or so people here.
Pretty much.
Do you mean, do I use a separate AI, or do you mean AI is in some of the tools that I use already?
Very good question. Very good question. However you want to answer it. And then you can clarify.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to end my poll and share results. Can you see those results?
Yes.
Okay. So 75% of you who are on the call today are using AI weekly. Are you using it daily? Only 38% are using it on a daily basis. Still, some of you are using it every day. That's interesting. That's interesting. What is an AI tool you like? I'll hit that one in a second because I'll have to, let me read that. I'll have to read that one off. Pull this up. Okay, you answered ChatGPT. Someone's using Turnitin, Grammarly, and ChatGPT. Pi, I've not heard of Pi. Someone said, I like the possibility of using AI for the higher side of Bloom's taxonomy. I couldn't agree more. And then ChatGPT 4.0. That's the tools that we're using. Okay. And finally, at the bottom, how stressed are you about using AI? About AI? Very little. I should have weighed in because I'm the one who answers very high. My stress about AI education is very high, and that's because I've never studied something so extensively and been so unsure about it. There's just so. It's like the 5 blind men trying to describe an elephant. You know, it depends on what part of the elephant you're holding. And I've interviewed computer scientists, including David James here at Grayson College, and I've studied and read, and it's hard to find emerging trends. I think it's very disruptive, and what I'm clear of is we're not going to have an AI hero come through Grayson College and solve it all for us. It's going to take a lot of collective thinking through and work. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to put up my agenda real quick so we know what we're doing. Okay. So this is interactive. It's really important so some of my panel is with me today. The panel I have, I don't know, Alvin, is it a Greek chorus? But I have Regan White from our instructional designer, Rose Lerma, Alvin Bailey, and Lisa Abear, our librarians, are on my Greek chorus today. And you can
I'm just here to learn. I'm just here to learn.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So you can weigh in. You can weigh in. I'm relying on your comments. We're going to start off with some definitions of AI, which shouldn't take us too long. And then we're going to go to the GC survey. We're going to look at that in depth. And the more I look at it in depth, the more I keep digging into it more. And there's still more to look into. Was hoping to get to, is AI detectable and trends, but I really want to keep it at 45 minutes with the chance for questions. And so I anticipate we may not get to those last 2 until our next Tuesdays with Todd, which is fine. We're going to be covering AI quite a bit in our Tuesdays with Todd Regan, just because there is so much to cover. And I'm looking at my room as a furniture and floor and desk covered with stacks of articles and papers that I'm trying to organize because there's just so much information on it. So some definitions.
So, Todd, before you go on, I'm just take you off your task. If you look at the toolbar across the bottom of the screen, you'll notice there is an AI companion, and the host has not turned it on.
Let me look. Where at the bottom of my screen? I've got two screens.
Yeah, it's
At the
in
bottom-
the toolbar that pops up.
The bar that pops up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
About halfway across, at least on my screen, there's an AI companion. And it does say that the host has not turned that on.
So I'm seeing audio, video, participants chat, share, pause. Oh, now it's come up. Start meeting summary with AI companion. Regan, why is requesting you to start? Oh, hey, let's experiment, right?
Well, I just was
Thank you.
going to point out.
That's perfect Greek chorus.
Yeah, well, it's this AI stuff is that, it's even reaching its hand up and saying, oh, by the way.
Okay, I turned it on. Now, it's a great illustration of the black box because what I just turned on, we'll find out. I have absolutely no idea. We have an AI companion now. Okay, good eye, Alvin.
Onward. Back to your definition, sir.
Yeah. Let me know if you see AI companion somewhere. We've got one now.
I think it's going to summarize the meeting for us.
And it's going to summarize. Okay.
It's going to take meeting notes.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Okay. Some common definitions. Okay. I got to probably click on my screen again. AI, computer software that mimics human cognitive abilities. So we all understand that pretty well. It's a general term. And then machine learning is a subset of AI, wherein algorithms are trained to perform specific tasks, such as in Netflix, recommending your next video is machine learning. Now, like I say, I had interviewed David James, one of our computer scientists here at Grayson College, and he doesn't agree. He says machine learning is the broader category, and AI is a subcategory of machine learning. So that may be the case. He knows a lot more about it than I do. So. And then deep learning, I don't know if anybody of you know much about deep learning, but deep learning is where they're creating artificial neural networks that mimic the brain performance. And David was explaining that to me. It's like very complicated algorithms that link in various places and interact like a brain neural network. And these are more complex reasoning tasks that don't require human intervention. I'll come back later to this whole concept of human intervention as the U.S. Department of Education recommends we have an AI future with humans in the loop. And so as far as education goes, we're not really looking at having it without human intervention. Is that a good way to put that? And most of you heard of natural language processing, a subset of machine learning, focusing on the ability to interpret human communication. That's what we're using when we're using ChatGPT or Claude, which I used. You're using a natural language processor. And robotics, a subset of AI, computer science, and electrical engineering focus on creating machines or robots capable of learning and performing tasks. It's a subset of AI. And last, generative AI, which is also ChatGPT, is any AI that can generate text, image, or video. We've seen a lot of ChatGPT and Claude and Bard and others, but we're also going to start seeing a lot more kinds of emerging AI, which is my next field. And I only have two real emerging AI definitions. If any of you in the chorus have more, love to hear them. But something I'm seeing just in this past year is instructional AI, a subset of generative AI that's used in education and is more focused on pedagogy. Now, ChatGPT is focused to answer a question as comprehensively and as soon as possible. So it's not ideal for pedagogy, whereas instructional AI, it can be used in different ways. It can be used to help teachers. It can be used to guide student writing, but it's going to be a lot more pedagogically based than then, so what we're going to see and what you're likely to see in the next coming years as a teacher is not generative AI, but instructional AI.
It's interesting. Just recently, Cengage announced that they were and that they have already integrated. If you look at Cengage, you'll see a prompt called student assistant, and essentially it's an instructional AI that's geared to answer student questions. It doesn't just give them an answer directly like ChatGPT would, but what it does is it provides guidance. It kind of aims them at the right answer.
Now, Regan, so it's more towards the content, not like a support chatbot for the tool functioning, right?
Right. Well, it's a support. It's support for the student, rather. It's not technical support though. It's content support.
Content. Have you looked at it?
I have looked at it in about a 10-second overview. I asked it a couple of questions, and it did not behave like ChatGPT. If you ask ChatGPT a question, basically it tells you an answer right there. This suggests things that you might look at. It's geared towards Cengage material.
Yeah.
So it's geared toward whatever textbook you're using it with, but it did at least suggest that they go to different areas of the textbook, and I'm not going to say it behaved like a live teacher would, but it tried.
Yeah, that's something we can review in a session coming up in the future. We're going to start reviewing some tools. Like we can review that one and Packback, and I think Sarah was using one called Notepad, I think. That sounds really interesting. But as different teachers find out about possible tools they want us to review, we definitely like to do that. Instructional AI is really built on the work of Chris Deedy from the Harvard Graduate School, who did a lot of work on intelligence augmentation. So not AI for education, but more IA. And they divide the idea of intelligence into two kinds: reckoning skills as a form of intelligence and judgment skills. And these reckoning skills are what we're going to sort of outsource to AI, while people are going to be having to build more judgment building skills. So, and they're Chris Deedy and others at the Harvard Graduate School of Education are predicting that in the future, the workforce is going to be, we're going to have to train students on really high levels of judgment skills, like the higher level Bloom's taxonomy, because we can outsource reckoning, calculated prediction, decision-making skills to AI. Like a tool, I was looking at Packback again, I'll bring that up again, a couple weeks ago, and it purports to help writing instruction, whereas more reckoning type skills like citation, like it functions in the speed grader of Canvas, and it can give students feedback on their sources, their citations, their format, things that are more reckoning skill, while teachers can focus on content and more judgment skills. I will say an article in Inside Higher Ed that looked not at Packback, but at those type of tools, teachers aren't liking them. It wasn't a good review. What we've seen so far from a teacher review of it is that it took more time sort of correcting or helping the feedback than if they'd just done it themselves. So, but I think eventually that's going to get a better at instructional AI is going to get helpful in ways. And definitely you shouldn't feel any pressure to use any of it, or like, I really don't think, I don't know what you think, Regan, but I don't think anybody should be pressured to like jump on the AI bandwagon and make sure you have your chops down. And just if a tool comes up that is looking like it's interesting to you, stay relaxed about it, take a look at it. What do you think, Regan?
But above all, make sure that there's a point to it. A lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon just to be on the bandwagon. They're just, okay, so now I've got to use AI because I've got to use it. You really want to have a purpose or a point. I mean, there needs to be a point. Find the tool based on a need, not finding a need based on the tool.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Hi, Todd. I'm sorry I don't have a hand raiser.
Okay.
function on my little cell phone. I'm sorry for that.
You're fine.
So Rose Wayne in here. I agree with have a purposeful reason when you engage in AI. But I would say, and also I've heard the same definition of machine learning at the graduate level as Dr. James. So putting that in. But I would say something to watch is if you think you initially like a tool, be very careful with it, because what we're learning is that the quality of the content is going down over time. So I would say watch, if you think you like something and it's purposeful or useful, have a filter ready for yourself of, is the accuracy still there in time? Because what we're learning is that accuracy is not keeping up, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
Sorry, I don't have a hand raiser.
No, you can jump in. Any theories on that? Because I do. I have one on why it's going down.
I'm sorry to answer that directly in case, I want to let people weigh in, but what I've been, so from what we know on the info side of the house is AI feeds itself.
That's what
and so it tends to learn from itself. And when its prompts are not accurate, it just takes down the overall body of information because it's learning from its own inaccuracies.
Yeah. That and the fact that more content on the web is AI generated, so it's going to eventually cannibalize its own products, right?
I was going to say,
and that's what we're seeing.
When you're down to taking things like Google didn't want to tell on ChatGPT when ChatGPT hacked their YouTubes to get more content because most of the web wasn't enough. When I was listening to that, like the intricacies of that, and because then Google wants to do the same thing with YouTube, even though they own all this stuff, there's some sort of legal wall there that they want to cross over. Wouldn't that just serve to make the whole thing, AI dumber to start out with all the stuff on YouTube and the internet? How do they get smarter if they're taking in all this crap?
Yeah, it's going to be. I was asking David James about that as well. It's like like ChatGPT. It depends on the data they're trained on. ChatGPT is trained on just what's available on the internet. So somebody was asking about research capabilities for AI, and ChatGPT, it's not really very good. You're going to get Wikipedia style answers, which is getting better, I'd say. But I asked David James, I said, well, could we, if we wanted to make our own AI, couldn't we put the training data as all the peer-reviewed articles in JSTOR or ERIC so that they're peer-reviewed scientific articles? Yeah, you could do that. And then you could have a very accurate resource tool.
Right, okay.
So it depends on the data that it's trained on. And right now, most of the major models are trained on just whatever's out there on the internet. As far as I know, they're definitely not sharing with us what they're training their data on.
So there's something scary to that, just coming back from the Texas Council of Academic Libraries conference last week. Our vendors have weighed in, and this would be people like EBSCO and Gale, and then some products we don't use that are in higher ed, like Clarivate. It's not necessarily a library product right now, but all those kind of things. And every vendor came up to tell us about their up and coming options for AI that will be embedded for searches. And a huge concern that we have is that it's to be learning off of the prompts and the suggestions that have been put in for the searches. So where I believe I agree that you could get quality information back from like JSTOR's holdings, the problem is, what are you going to get if the prompts have been pre-suggested by people that aren't expert researchers, or, you know what I mean? And so it's like, we're all watching on bated breath as academic librarians. Where does that lead? We don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that, we don't know is a good answer to almost anything today in learning about AI. And it's just like,
we don't know.
The more we looked at our survey, which is coming up, the more we have to sometimes say, how does anybody know? But if you were a Star Trek fan, which I always was, you'll know that the two characters we're looking at are Captain Picard and the android Data. And Chris Deedy, whose writings I really liked on intelligence augmentation, gave that as an example of effective intelligence augmentation, where Data, the AI, was not a replacement for a human, but was an augmentation of it. Picard had the experience and the wisdom and the judgment skills. Data had no emotion or social understanding of humans, but had huge amounts of data processing abilities. That's the kind of intelligence augmentation that Chris Deedy was recommending. So the GC survey, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and share my survey for a minute. Seeing the survey, Regan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, we'll go through the survey and see what insights we can get. Really, this first question was to help me make different piles of paper on my floor and office so I can look at different answers within different contexts. But so we had 26 people from the academic courses answer, 20 from health science, and 9 from the workforce program. Under what subjects do you teach? We had a little bit of everything. I won't go too into that, but we had a good representation: math, radiological, welding, clinical, computer science, cosmetology, physiology, math, surgical procedures, English, dental, music, English philosophy. We had a very good representation throughout the college, so that's good. But I can also cross-reference different subjects and their preferences towards AI or their thoughts of AI. And then, how many years have you been teaching? The biggest response we got from 11 to 20 years. That's because that's the most number of teachers we have in that category. I'm not sure. But again, this came in handy because I can shift my pages of data and look at patterns within each of those groups. This is where it started getting interesting. Question 4, how frequently do you use AI tools in your teaching? You can see the greatest number is never, followed by rarely. So, and I think that's one of the insights we got from our survey is the majority of our teachers are not using it at all or rarely using it in their teaching. Any insights so far, Regan, from anything I've forgotten?
Not so far. I think we've pretty much covered. It struck me as interesting, but then as I thought about it and see what you think about this, the reason on the previous question, the reason that the largest group was 11 to 20 years, generally by the time people are in secondary or higher education, they are in fact experienced teachers, and most of them are probably in that 11 to 20 year category. Oh. If you'd asked at maybe a K-12 school, that percentage might have been different. Mm-hmm. Right. But that's, while we were talking about that earlier, that's what I was thinking. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Yep. Yes, some of the teachers I know taught in public school first, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
And Todd, I think the issue on how frequently do you use AI tools, and that may go back to your definitional thing, because they may be using things that are not, or that are AI, they just don't recognize it as such, because they're thinking it's about, a lot of people who are sort of have a passing interest think it's nothing more than Chat GPT, but they don't really recognize they're actually using things like Turnitin have an AI component.
Yeah, that's you're right on with that. And one of our further questions will flesh that out for us a little bit more. I think the only thing I really got from this is most of our teachers are rarely using it or never using it. And I would say, and I don't have any pressure that you should be using it. I look at AI a lot, and for me personally in my work, it hasn't been helpful. And I'm just being complete disclosure here. I had it create my survey, this very survey. I had it create one first and went through it, and it was a bit of a catastrophe. It had questions that superficially made sense, but then when I thought about it, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It had real nonsense. So I haven't yet found my aha moment with AI where I'm like, I got to have this tool. And when I've done some of my research on my favorite topics with ChatGPT, it isn't good enough. It isn't good enough information so far. Okay. And that was, never. Okay, this is what I want. Question 5, which AI tools do you use in your teaching? This one was really interesting, especially that other down there, content creation tools, 13 people are using AI content creation tools. And now that's probably vague. It could be ChatGPT. It creates all kinds of content, So a little bit of AI text to image generators, which I used to make the final image. I'll show probably next time. I probably won't get to it this time, but I used an image maker. AI-driven lesson planning tools I haven't used. Has anybody used an AI lesson planning tool? Some people are using AI quiz generation. The other was interesting because it made me think, well, I was curious to see what other types of tools they're using. But when I dug into it, some of the other meant they weren't using none. So the people who aren't using any tools picked other, and their comment was that it was none. Some of this other is, like Alvin said, people using Turnitin or Kahoot or Alex or Cengage with AI already embedded into it. And when we get back to my PowerPoint, I'll have a further breakdown of what that other is and what people meant by that other. But long story short, some of this other is sort of indirect AI use, like Turnitin, or it's just they're not using it. Question 6, how has the use of AI tools impacted your teaching efficiency? Again, the greatest haven't used AI tools, but I was kind of surprised that the two largest group of answers is greatly increased efficiency and somewhat increased efficiency. So a little bit of no noticeable change, a little bit of somewhat decreased efficiency. I'll have to say with my use of creating a survey, it decreased my efficiency, but more importantly, my experience was using AI to create the survey is it made me think differently, and it wasn't the way I wanted to, because usually, like if I'm going to create something, I go through I go through Bloom's taxonomy from bottom to top, meaning I start with remembering what I know and understanding, thinking through what I understand and know, coming up with my questions, starting to analyze and synthesize. And at the end, I started evaluating. When I used AI, I had to immediately go into evaluation mode because I've got this content here that I've got to evaluate. And so I'm not going through my own remembering and comprehending. I'm immediately going to higher level Blooms. And what the effect that had on me is by the time I got to the end, I lost track of what my original questions were, what I wanted, and I sort of had to start over again. So for me, using AI means I don't get to go through my usual thought process. I'm open to changing that thought process, but so far it wasn't handy. Does that make sense, Regan?
It does. It does.
Sometimes I got to have somebody weigh in and tell me if I'm making any sense or not. It's making sense to me. Okay. So again, most people haven't used AI tools.
Or they don't know. That was the other thing that we had found out a while ago is they, as has been said, they don't know they're using one.
Yeah.
And even something as simple as Google now, if you make a Google search, technically, I guess you're using AI because every Google search involves an AI prompt or a response.
Yep, exactly. And so what are the main challenges you face when integrating AI tools into your teaching? The more I think about this question, the more I'm not sure I've answered anything for myself. Lack of training was one of the options. I should have had a other category because really what I think it is we don't know enough about how AI should work to know how to use it. Like, what should I even use it for, or what should I train in? But definitely lack of training. I think for using a language model like ChatGPT, training is more along the lines, correct me if I'm wrong, prompt engineering. And I took a class in prompt engineering last year, and it was interesting.
Well, see, that's sort of the thing. I mean, just the way I think about Grayson College is we're not even asking the right questions So to start what you were highlighting there, because if I think of us as more or less an old Scantron institution who has never adapted, right? And so now then we went on to like a lot of the courses, auto grading and this and that, and then went to COVID, and then put the 8-week model on there, of course, a few years before all that. And so I was, fixated in ELAC on, we're talking about generative AI, but if a lot of courses aren't generating, that's fine. But here that's not fine, excuse me, but you're going to have a whole different conversation. So then if I'm in a course, if I more or less have a Scantron approach to everything, whatever modern flavor that takes, well, then if I use AI to help me create content in a module, I've used AI. But really, I didn't I guess you did, but that wasn't really a whole lot. That was on the teaching side. It wasn't on the assessment side there. And then if we're on the assessment side, we got to get off the bubble mentality with the old Scantron thing, but and then also not just dropping assignments. Not just so that I have students do a presentation or a paper or something, but that they're scaffolding along the way. And then that's where the AI potential, I think, or there are possibilities in any case, because then we're going to have a whole lot of people who don't know anything about how to do that, regardless of what their degree is.
Right. Yep. Gotcha. Yep. Makes sense. Any other comments on question 7? Technical issues, resistance from students. I don't know. Yeah, a couple of people had resistance from students. That might be one I should look into more. Let me look at some of the comments on this one.
Another AI.
Yeah, I have an option to do. Well, let me tell you what. Let's look at some of the comments first, and then we'll turn on this AI and see what it does for us. But comments on what are the main challenges? No use for it that I'm aware of. Yeah, don't know enough about it. Can't make educational classes. I'm not using the tools, but AI is very difficult to grade. Takes a lot of time trying to detect, no doubt about it. I have not experienced any challenges to date. Time constraints. This person has no issues. As with anything, time to make changes.
Yeah.
No challenges. AI is something that is rarely applicable when it comes to my math classes. Lack of a normative playing field. We do not describe to any AI service. This is one I'd like to know more about. I wonder what kind of college is definitely willing to subscribe to an AI service if we can identify what would be helpful, whether it's the ChatGPT-4 or whether it's AI, instructional AI. It's incredibly flawed, and I know more than it does about my subject. I'm absolutely certain that you do. Yes. Difficulty determining appropriate use. Now, this is kind of where I come down to. It is difficulty determining appropriate use for AI. And right now, I don't know that I can think of any or recommend an AI use in education. I'd say we're looking at some tools right now. I know like Sarah had one she's very interested in. Dr. McMillan had one he was interested in called Packback that I've been looking at. And so some of the tools are coming out and we're looking at it, but to really know appropriate use for it on the teaching side, I don't know. I know the students are using it. I would love to learn more about aspects of AI. I don't like it. Just straight up, I don't like it. If I had to answer a question, if it had to be 50-50, do you like AI or don't like it? What would you say, Regan?
It's generating a lot of extra work for you and I. I would say at that point, I don't like it.
Yeah. If I had to weigh down like it, don't like it, I don't want to bias anybody. At this point, I'm not liking it a whole lot. I can see the potential of it. And I'm sure there'll be tools that like eventually, but I kind of agree in some ways.
There were a lot of people that felt the same way about the internet in general when it first came out. Back in the 80s, people were like, it's a fad, it'll be gone in 6 weeks. And sure enough, it didn't. I suspect AI will calm down after because I think we're not the only ones that are a little at loss. trying to figure out what to do with it. But as it matures, as the technology matures, I think that, like the internet, it will become more useful, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I think so. I did a training with Starlink where they said AI is not a hype cycle. It's here to stay. And I agree with that, but there is a lot of hype going on right now in educational technology.
But, hey, big picture, the people are a lot more ignorant since the rise of the internet, right?
Huh.
I mean, don't you think?
Boy.
Well, that's one of my concerns here is that we're talking about intelligence. Okay. So we're talking about thinking, cognition. And there's only a certain level of cognition that you can export before you lose a lot of your ability to assess information critically. And so, especially in an education setting, this is what we are trying to teach people is how to assess information and be critical thinkers. And you really can only export so much of that to a tool and do it accurately.
Right. Yeah. That's
So I was with you on being very concerned. I missed that fourth question since I'm on a phone. But I'm with you on the very, and I would say, no, I don't like it either because I think the problem is as we run towards these tools as a society, as a global population, we got to consider what is ourself, what's the humanness in this artificial intelligence. And I think that's what's being missed out on.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying not. Oh, go ahead.
I think another point is that AI is very useful in the business world where you are not trying to measure learning and measure people's ability to think critically and to integrate ideas and synthesize. So I think it's very useful and good in many settings. In our particular setting, AI is harmful because it's preventing people from doing those higher order thinking skills. And this next comment that you got where it says McGraw-Hill has statistical evidence, I believe that's because it dumbs it down for the students. And once it's dumbed down and the students grasp they might grasp the understanding, but they're not challenged then to reach for those higher, whether it's vocabulary words or concepts or whatever. Once it's dumbed down, that prevents the students from reaching their potential.
Right.
So I think where you're using AI for us, it's a different approach from what the rest of the world is looking at it for, I think.
Yes. Good point. Very good point. I agree. And I know an article Alvin shared with me on how big the finance and business worlds are doubling down on AI. It's a huge investment opportunity, and they're doubling billions of dollars and are going into it as investment opportunities. Okay, that's good. All right, we looked at those comments and let's shall we try this, Regan?
Let's see what happens.
Turn the this is live. I literally have no idea what this is.
No.
Okay, it's thinking, right?
Ah.
How people feel. Okay.
Okay. Apparently, they're not happy.
Red. Now, red's anger, kind of red, anger, sad face.
Yeah.
12% or 6%. Don't know.
Yeah. 82% negative and 12% indifferent. No positives.
No positives.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good. My AI, but AI did that for us, right?
Yeah, it did. Right. And Todd, if you scroll down, you'll see that now has the little happy faces or whatever.
Oh, okay. Now we could say if it's accurate, no issues. Okay, yeah, incredibly flow. Yeah, I don't like it. That's easy.
It's interesting. Todd, go back up for just a little bit. Go back up where it says, I would just down a tad. I would love to learn. It said, I would love to learn. Keep going.
Down. Oh,
down there.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to learn more aspects, and yet the AI gives
negative.
a negative.
Wrong. Nice.
And for me, that's a terribly positive statement.
Good catch, Dana. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's a positive statement, right?
That's an absolute positive statement, and so the it's incredibly flawed statement is probably true.
So the Greek chorus goes, ooh.
Oh.
Well done. Yeah. Okay. I don't agree with that. Well done.
Even the NA, go back up to what the NA was given. Okay, it said no issues.
Yeah. There were two
Yeah.
of them, and they were both yellow. Or one of them was just a
Oh,
question mark.
Yeah.
The one down toward the bottom, the NA one.
NA,
Yeah, there we go.
question mark. Oh,
It didn't know quite what to think.
okay, so mostly it was
Interesting.
AI doesn't always interpret something if you expect it. Yeah, okay, mostly it's accurate, except for that one that
Yeah.
our Dana caught. Nice. Excellent, excellent. Question 8, how do you perceive the impact? This one surprised Regan. How do you perceive the impact of AI on student learning outcomes? Most people were positive or neutral,
Which was surprising.
especially given what we just looked at on the question before.
Yeah.
The impact, they perceive the impact on eventual student learning as probably positive or at worst neutral. Some, let me see how many, 3 people very negative and negative. Who knows who's going to be right? Impact on, I think what we count as student learning is going to change. If Chris Deedy at Harvard is accurate, and we start training the workforce towards judgment skills and outsourcing reckoning skills to AI, then what we count as student outcomes is going to change.
I think that's a good point. And in my job, if those reckoning skills are being scored by an AI, then I have a lot more time to deal with those higher order thinking skills that are more important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Exactly. That's the goal. That's what we would shoot for.
Right.
Question 9, don't know how much I learned from this. What potential benefits do you see using AI in education? First, a lot of people see it as, well, this is very positive too. Personalized learning experiences, increased engagement, improved assessment methods, enhanced comprehension. I wish I could dig into this a little bit more, like how would it increase engagement? And personalized learning experiences, this has been a buzzword in education for 15 years, 10 or 15 years. I'll just point out briefly, there's a little bit of contradiction there because learning is social in nature. So you can only get, like Rosa said, you can only outsource so much cognitive work onto the internet. You can also only make so much of learning personalized because it's social. It's social in nature. Constructivist theory of learning is that we learn in social context. So you can't.
And that's.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
That's one of my big questions: is at what point is the bot grading its own work? Right. I mean, at what point has the student created AI-based content that is being graded by the AI bot? Right. And I'll give you an example that's also highly concerning to me for a teacher is that coming out of my doctoral research project, a crossroads that I met at with the committee, I am absolutely committed to not using AI and not in my own coursework for sure. And as it continued to have revisions and put in through things like Turnitin and similar type tools, at one point, my project came up as a 94% match against my own work. And if you were to just look at that raw number, the way it looked like is that this was a plagiarized document or AI generated, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm getting at these things aren't sophisticated yet because that happened to me within the last 8 months. Uh-huh. And so at what point is it just that we're saying, oh, this is easier, but we're just grading what AI already wrote for itself through AI?
Interesting.
I think that's true already because Turnitin throws a score back for plagiarism that's, 2 or 3%. But I looked at a student's paper one time and that 2% was an entire paragraph. But a lot of teachers just go, oh, it's only 2%. It's fine. But right. They'd copied an entire paragraph. So again, like you said, it's judgment and what are we comparing it to and what are people using it for? Right. I agree.
Yeah, right. I'll get through these last questions a little quicker. How often are students using AI in their studies? Most people are not sure. And how do we know? Regan and I figured out by December of 2022 that you could generate something in AI, change a few things, and then pass most AI detection tools. So if we're talking about trends that we see coming up in AI in education, one of those trends we see is that students are going to be using it a lot to write their work and pass the AI detection undetected. So a lot more of content's going to be AI written and we're not going to know it. And this is an opinion. This is just looking at looking at fact. AI is undetectable. It's easy to pass an AI detection tool. So there you go.
Yep.
How do you feel about students using AI tools for their coursework? Neutral, most neutral, some support.
That one was surprising.
Yeah. That one was surprising, Regan?
Yeah, that one was. I would have imagined that the strongly opposed would have been just almost 100%.
Yeah, right. Especially after that sentiment analysis. Yeah. So Grayson College, they're open. I'd say Grayson College student faculty, they're open to it. You know, they're neutral. They're a lot of positive, a lot of support. A lot of them don't use it, don't know how to use it or what you use it for, but they're open to it. So I kind of feel like we're in a good place. It's like given what we know and don't know about it, that's kind of where you should be almost, unless you really do a lot of work on AI and you've found your aha moment with it, you know. And this is one I broke down in my PowerPoint too. To what extent do you anticipate students in your field will be required to use AI in the workforce? You know, moderately was the main one. And I broke this down versus academic, health sciences, and workforce, how they answered that. But we're getting close to our 50-minute mark. Let's do this sentiment analysis one. Do you have any additional comments or suggestions regarding UCI? Okay. Should I turn it on first this time, Regan?
Try it and see. I'm curious.
So, I mean,
Hey, we got something positive.
we got some. Do you have additional comments? Okay, 30% were negative, neutral, 4% undetected. Okay, let's look at a few of them. It should definitely be implemented into the teaching of, as a lot of STEM-led jobs will be used. Now that seems to me like positive, right? They're saying it should definitely be implemented. Is that neutral?
That sounds positive to me.
That doesn't sound neutral. So, okay. I'd say that one failed. Mm-hmm. The reason that I state extensively is because reports are emerging that strongly suggest in healthcare AI is a better diagnostic tool than the MD.
This one is highly negative.
And it can no, this is positive and manage the vast amount of information. We would be next. So this one person is saying AI in healthcare, reports are emerging that AI is a better diagnostic tool than MD. Well, my last doctor that I got rid of a year ago, AI would definitely be better than that guy.
But, but they're pointing out the last sentence. He says we would be negligent to ignore this for our healthcare professionals. I think what they're saying is that they're not for AI. They're not in support of the evidence that's coming out, or they're not support of the idea that AI is a better diagnostic tool. I could be wrong, but that's just my interpretation of it.
They're going to be running around with it on their iPads at TMC pretty soon if they're not now, because they're already monitored fairly. But you can see it like covering basic things in a checklist that just people, like the old rationale for having a pilot's list, because they're going to healthcare professional jump to something exotic before it's like just a UTI or dehydration, whereas the computer will never, not skip the step.
Yeah. It's better running checklist. The other thing I think, Todd, but specific to this response, AI response thing, part of the challenge for AI, and I think it shows up here, is we're academics and we write like academics with the sort of passive voice going on and a lot of nuanced words. And I think what happens to my friends at the AI department, they don't read it that way. It's too many words. It must not be really positive because if it's positive, it just would be, great.
That's a good insight. Yeah.
That what's happening here, it's not getting nuance. It doesn't do that.
Well, yeah, because one of the things the U.S. Department of Education recommended is that if the AI tool is transparent and inspectable, meaning I want to know what AI tool they're using and something about the data set. Like, is this just running through Chat GPT? But yeah, that's a really good point. AI is more of a problem in my classroom than a benefit. That's negative. I'm not opposed to AI. Just feel students will use AI to help answer homework questions. I do know that when students use AI to answer dental-based questions, they're not always correct. I don't know.
That one seems more neutral to me.
That was what I was going to say. That seems more neutral to me. I love evaluating the AI live in live time. I'm still a work in progress on AI, but the more I use it, the more I like it. Yeah. Okay.
That's interesting.
Once AI can be fully monetized, access to it will change. Yeah.
And that's the truth, as a matter of fact. That's the driving force behind it right there. It's not about information or research or technology. It's about monetization.
Yeah, and I'm more concerned about the data set and data bias that's trained on. Like when I'm interviewing tools that want to sell to Grayson College, I'm asking as much as I can about the bias in the data set. Is it just pulling Chat GPT? Is it just pulling straight from the internet? One thing I strongly warn against is going too hog wild with AI. Many places are trying to literally replace human workers with AI. There are numerous problems with this. Studies have shown that even if AI robot system is competent, humans are social creatures who want to talk to a human. Yeah, no doubt about it. Humans always prefer to talk to a person and not a robot, even if the robot is competent. Mm-hmm. Yep. In a nutshell, AI is not a bad thing. So see, this is not necessarily negative either. Because at the end, it says AI is not necessarily a bad thing. AI would be fine if you can keep it in a subordinate role that fosters neuron creation. Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. Right now, a lot of students want to use AI instead of work, which means their brains do not engage. No doubt about that.
Oh, that's me, I think. I think I wrote that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Right on track that. Yep, absolutely. But is it negative?
It depends.
If you could keep it a sort of
Yeah, that's more of a neutral.
Yeah, that's more neutral to me too. What's this box right here? Oh, I can tag things. Tags. What happens if I tag it?
It pins it.
Pins it?
No. Does it pin it? I think it pins it.
Okay.
Yep, you have one selected response. Now you have the choice of to either tag it or pin it.
Hey, this is what Regan and I do almost every day is we just click and destroy on tools, just see what stuff does until it breaks.
The tools until we break them.
Would love to see the positives instead of all this concern with cheating. Well, now I understand what they're saying, but cheating is a huge concern, and I'm gonna stop sharing here just for a moment on that point.
When it dovetails into the larger discussion, are we talking about students who are in the nursing program because they want to be in the nursing program, or students who are knocking out composition because they have to and they would rather not be there, right? Two very different reactions.
Yeah, I've gone to computer conferences over the summer on AI, and the cheating issue is one that's getting swept under the rug a lot. But one of the PowerPoint pages I have is headlines from the last couple months on how many articles are coming out on the increase of AI cheating. So we're out of time today, but for part 2 on this, we'll go into that on is AI detectable? Spoiler, no, it's not detectable. But we'll go into next time a little bit more on we'll dig a little deeper into that question of AI cheating and some trends. But also just feel like teachers, there's no stress to use AI or pressure to use AI. I don't want people to feel like, they're neo-Luddites if they're not all over it. But just wait until see this, be open-minded to some of it and see what works for you. Any other comments today?
I think whether you like it or not, it's coming down the pike. You're going to have to deal with it.
That's right.
I agree with that. And I would say an argument I would stand on as somebody that does info science, I would argue that AI itself cheats. It's taking a bunch of content that it has no rights to have, and it's feeding us back and conglomerate of that. So that's a topic I would die on that hill.
Does plagiarizes?
Yeah. Does ChatGPT basically plagiarizing?
I believe it is. I think a better term for it would be that it is a conglomerate of regurgitated content.
Undocumented.
Stealing and repackaging. But
that's what it is.
Yeah.
And we need to remember that when we use it, because there are all kinds of little shortcuts we can take in our lives. We're going to use the microwave instead of going out and starting an old school fire pit. And we can take those shortcuts. We just need to remember what the difference is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Good point.
Thank you so much, everybody, for showing up. We will start part two of this.
Did you see Bill Maher last Friday? He had the guy that's designing a lot of military AI. It's absolutely frightening, the stuff they're working on. They talk about this stuff having some, huge destruction potential. They're not messing around.
It's interesting to note, just for that struck a chord with me, what you just said. AI in the military has been around since the 80s.
Long time, right?
And one of the things that they have codified, in fact, it's illegal. They will not put an AI in charge of the weapons. They will not arm an AI. We got robot tanks or we got robot reconnaissance vehicles, but they will not arm one without a human on the kill switch to turn it off. And the reason that they do that is what you just said. It's like they had a plan to put AIs down in the missile silos back in the Cold War, and they launched wrong 2/3 of the time.
Well, right, but remember, this is all in the context of the United States will never get off the gold standard. We will never do it, no matter what anyone says. We're going to have something back in our currency until you don't, right?
You don't.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next time.